But yeah, I'll introduce you and then we can just get into your running history and just talk about like why you're such a prolific and I would say like monumental runner in the running scene. I currently and in the past, in my
Sure.
personal opinion. You can share how you feel about that as we get into it.
Thanks. No, I appreciate that.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to Runnah, your favorite local running community. I'm Juliana, and this week we are bringing you another virtual but local interview with, I would say, a local legend in not only the athletes with disabilities or the athletes with disabilities category, and also in like the general, just like being a badass athlete category. We have Kyle Robidoux with us, who I would say is probably, what title would you give yourself, Kyle? Like the first person to really pioneer the adaptive division at the Vermont 100, potentially, maybe?
I definitely was one of many folks who kind of worked with Amy and Vermont Adaptive to help start the Athletes with Disability division.
Yeah. You've made a lot of I feel like big strides for people in the athletes with disabilities and the adaptive division. And we can talk about that in length, but I'm very excited to have you here. So welcome, Kyle.
Sure. Thank you. Welcome. Thank you for inviting me on and for the work that you do in the community as well.
I'm a newbie to this and I'm trying my best, and I'm not in the same category, categorization wise as you. So but there's so many other people. We just got to keep being advocates. That's really all it comes down to.
Yeah, I agree. It's part runner, part advocate, part organizer, and part cheerleader is kind of what I've been focusing on for many, many years.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a big fan of the cheerleader side of things too. It's a lot of fun. I love cheering for people. But let's give people a history of your running, because I actually don't know when, how, or why you actually started running. So let's let the people know how this even happened. What is the Wolverine origin story of Kyle Robidoux?
Sure. So, I've been running my entire life, but never identified as a runner or ran competitively growing up and into my early 20s. I ran to either get into or stay in shape for sports in high school and so forth. And then high school, I ran for a couple of years just here in Boston just to stay in shape and so forth. And I started running races in 2010 and 2011.
Okay. And completely call me out if this is an inappropriate question to be asking you. Have you always had some kind of visual challenges or disability, or is this something that maybe developed as you got older? I don't know, just because as someone who does not have that going on in their body, I really respect you for getting out there and not being able to possibly see as well as I can when I am running. And you don't have to answer that question if you feel like it's insensitive, but if you'd like to answer it, go for it.
No, it's a perfectly fine question. That's part of the reason why I'm on. So fire away all the questions. I will try my best to answer. But I have a regenerative or degenerative eye disease. It's hereditary. I was diagnosed at age 11, which was really early on for my eye disease, which at the time, the eye disease was retinitis pigmentosa, RP for short.
Okay.
And the only impact at that time, or leading into my early teens, was that my parents and I chose for me not to get a license. Although I could have passed the test, we never really would have known that, if something happened, would we have been liable, or how much would have been related to my vision.
Okay.
Although I have plenty of friends who drove into their 40s with the same eye condition. And then I was declared legally blind at age 19, which was more of a procedure just to help me unlock some funding for college. I ended up paying for college on my own. So I was able to get some additional funding and disability benefits by being legally blind. And I think I would say, as well as probably my wife, that vision wise, outside of never having any vision at night or in dimly lit areas, it really didn't start to impact me probably until like mid to late 20s.
Okay. And I'm assuming you're not in your 20s anymore. That's just my assumption. Uh,
I'm not, yeah, no, I'm not in my 20s, well past that. And, right now I'm at a place where, I mean, and interestingly enough, just thinking about it and looking back, when
mhm,
I was diagnosed, initially they thought that I would lose all of my vision by college. And then when I
mm,
went to college, they were like, well, maybe in your late 20s and early 30s. So I've always had these markers kind of hanging over my head, which is
mhm.
very common for folks who have like an age related or regenerative or regressive eye disease.
Yeah. Yeah. Or any kind of
And
degenerative disease as well, too. I mean, I have ankylosing spondylitis, and I pretty much like at some point my spine is going to fully fuse together at the bottom. And that's just something that's just like waiting off in the distance somewhere for me.
yes, no, exactly, exactly. So it's not to say that it's easier for someone by all means, but there's like these different categories of vision loss or
Mhm,
blindness in which some folks are born totally blind, so they've had to adapt and learn right from the jump. There's some
mhm,
folks who've had, based on maybe a traumatic brain injury or some other type of accident, that they've lost their vision really quickly overnight,
mhm.
which is just as challenging. And then, folks like myself who've had slow vision loss over time. So I am now at a place where I probably have 1 to 2% of usable vision. So I have really, really extreme tunnel vision. I
Mhm.
do have still, even as I'm wearing glasses today, I'm down to about, I can get corrected like 20/50, 20/60, which is pretty decent, but it's the tunnel and the really narrow vision that is the impact for me.
Okay. And through all this, it sounds like you continue to run, if I'm not correct.
So I did not, well, I stopped running shortly after I moved to Boston. And
Mm,
sometimes I think I convinced myself that I could no longer run because of my vision or run safely outside. For
mhm,
the most part, I also stopped skiing. Maybe I was going skiing 1 to 2 times a season versus every weekend growing
mhm,
up. And I also became, I was probably 255 or 260 pounds, and my health markers were all out of whack in terms of cholesterol and heart issues. And I did make a conscious decision to start walking and getting in better shape and trying to lose weight.
mhm,
And at that same time, I was walking outside and I was like, oh, let me just literally, I was wearing all my work clothes. I had, Doc Martens on and a big tweed, winter coat. And I was in Franklin Park, which is a gorgeous, still continues to be my favorite park in
mhm.
Boston. And I was just on a lunch break walking and I was like, let me try running for a minute. And I ran for like 5 minutes. I remember I passed someone. They must have thought either I was chasing them or running from someone because
Uh-huh.
I was
Right.
dressed in full work clothes
Uh-huh.
and I was on like a paved path and I was like, wow, I can do this. And I didn't fall and didn't hit anyone. And I just started literally running 5 minutes every couple days and then 10 to 15 minutes and then progressing from there.
Was it scary to start doing that? Because I feel like if I wasn't able to see properly, I mean, I can speak from my own personal experience with my hip dysplasia and my EDS. Like
Mhm.
half the time when I'm running, I'm like terrified that my leg is just gonna like I call it spaghetti. Like it kind of just like blows out to one
Mhm.
side. And
Yeah.
like I'll accidentally trip myself sometimes. And like, your girl Juliet has fallen a few times. But like that scares me enough. And I can physically see what's in front of me, even with
Mhm.
that like unpredictableness in my body. If with Juliana with her current anxiety, if I was in your body, I would be having a lot of anxiety. I don't know how you were feeling throughout this whole process. If you want to talk about that and maybe give us like the internal feelings that you were processing through this whole running experience.
Yeah, I mean, it was all of the above, right? I feel like I had all the feelings. I mean, I was also actively in therapy at the time just to kind of try to unwind, well, process and then unwind and undo the anger that I was holding
Mm-hmm.
in. And my at the time I looked at it as like my vision loss was kind of taking everything I loved to do, particularly the skiing and the outdoor recreational activities that I was no longer able to do. So
Mm-hmm.
on one hand, I was ecstatic that, wow, I can do this. I can run. I can physically run. Although weight loss, I understand like the concept of weight loss isn't always the most healthy marker. But for me at the
Yeah.
time, it's something that I can measure in
Mhm.
addition to the time, right? I was like, oh, I ran 15 minutes this week. I'm going to try to do 20 next week. But I
Yeah.
also saw my weight decreasing. And I had a daughter who was 2 at the time. And I was getting tired just playing with her. So a lot of it was just, let me lose weight. Let me try to get back into shape. And I felt decently comfortable running. I was certainly mindful of trying to run on paths that I was familiar with.
Mhm.
However, I do distinctly recall, and I was running by myself. I didn't actually know that there was running like sighted guides. I knew that there were guides for skiing that I saw growing up.
Mhm.
Skiing. Oh, look, there's someone who's blind and they're skiing with someone in a big orange bright vest. But
Yeah.
we didn't know that concept existed for runners. So I was just going out running on my own. And I remember right around the corner from my house, I was often choosing sidewalks and sides of the streets that I knew were less crowded or less busy. And I remember I was
Mhm.
running on a sidewalk, and part of the way my vision works is like if someone is in my blind spot, I could be looking right at them, but they can
You
kind of
can't
be
see.
blind spot. I can't see them.
Yeah.
And so I was running on Columbus Ave, right around the corner from my house, right across the
Mhm.
street from the big, huge police station. And I ran smack into someone. Thankfully, like I hit her so clean and full on that I was able to just grab her and hold
Yeah.
her up. Like I didn't knock her over.
Just like
And
hug her
she,
and just kind of like, whoop.
exactly, because I hit her like super flush.
Uh-huh.
And she started screaming at me, and I was apologetic from the jump.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, I'm so sorry. And I had to fake it. I'm like, oh, my eyes were watering. And I'm sorry, like they watering, I just didn't see you. And she didn't believe me. She's like, well, I don't like why like I'm the only one here. You like ran right into me. And
Mhm.
it was difficult for me at the time to say, well, I can't see and blah blah blah. And I
Yeah.
shouldn't be out here. So that was definitely like, and I, no pun intended, like an eye opener. And but again, I still didn't know of these that running guides existed. So it was always on my mind. It still continues. I do,
Mhm.
in full transparency, run. I really, for the most part now, I have a track that's about less than a quarter mile from my house. So
Mhm.
to go to the track and I'll walk the track one loop, make sure that there's no one there or no pesky hurdles set up. And I do try
Yeah.
to run. I do run on the track, but it's also now like it depends on how bright it is, the time of day, and things of that nature. So it's becoming much less frequent that I'm out by myself.
Okay. Now, one, we love therapy. I have therapy tomorrow. We love therapy, so I'm glad that you were doing that. That's fantastic. Um, Two, what was the transition to finding out about like the guided running? Because it seems like this was kind of like the next step in your journey of like figuring out like, oh, I can run with someone who can hopefully work as my set of eyes for me.
Yeah, so I didn't know about it, nor had I ever met someone else who was blind or visually impaired, except for in the doctor's office. But I never met anyone else until I started
Yeah.
working at the Massachusetts Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired in 2013. They're a nonprofit based in Brookline.
Hmm.
And for telling one of my coworkers, I think I started in September, and in October, I ran what was the Smutty Nose Marathon up in like Hampton, New Hampshire. And I was telling a coworker, I'm like, oh, I fell like the first turn. I took out orange cone, didn't see it, and it was crowded,
Yeah.
and skinned up my knee. But I ran the entire marathon, so I was like, oh,
Yeah.
I
I
look
did
like
it.
that. And he said, well, have you run with guides before? And I had, again, no idea of the concept. I mean, once he explained it, I'm like, oh, kind of like the ski guides I see out in the mountains. But again, never knew that they were running guides. And he convinced me and helped me sign up for this like national marathon, well, the California International Marathon,
Mhm.
which at the time was doubling as like the National Blind Marathon Championships, which didn't mean much,
Oh,
except like the 3 fastest runners were deemed like the champions and the podiums, but anyone could
okay.
sign up. It
Okay.
wasn't like a competitive race to get into, and CIM
Yeah.
is a great race. So
Hmm.
that December 2013 was my first race and probably my first time ever running with a sighted guide. And it was probably my maybe fourth or fifth marathon at the time.
Okay. Now, do you? I know that for the people that I've spoken to previously, like usually you do at least like a little bit of a practice run with the guides leading up into the marathon just to like make sure you're a good fit. I mean, I
Mhm.
would personally prefer that as well
Yeah.
too. I feel like that's the same for anyone you're going to have either crew you or pace you or guide you. It's good to make sure that that other person is you mesh well. Did you have some time to like meet with the first person, and like what was that first experience like?
Yeah. That time, I remember talking on the phone with them a handful of times, and
Hmm.
they actually had a lot of guiding experience. They actively guided a couple of my buddies out in the Sacramento area, so they are experienced guides. But
Hmm.
to your point, yeah, I had to talk to them about like what I'm comfortable with. How do you know? They're like, well, what side do you want us to run on? I'm like, I don't know. We'll figure it out when I get there. And they're like, what's your strategy for water stops? Which was great because the marathons I ran, like one of the things that I felt the most guilty about running in the marathon, in addition to like tripping over other people here and there, was that
Hmm.
there was literally a time where I went into the water stop, grabbed some water, and then I went to throw it just like everyone else does, and didn't realize there's someone right next to me.
Did
So I
you
kind of
chuck
like,
it at someone's head?
well, I like throw like punched it, and I was like so sorry, and
Oh
they were
no.
actually fine with because they realized how crowded it was. But
Uh-huh.
again, so I was like, oh, this is great. I can have help and support coming in and out of aid stations or water stops
Hmm.
at the time. So we workshopped it and talked it through, and I had one other guide who I talked to once for that race. He started the race with me, and then the other person finished it. So overall, it ended up being a good experience. Although I do joke with the runner who I'm still very good friends with, and I adore him in many ways. But I actually tripped at exactly mile 26. I towed a um, a manhole cover and went
Uh-huh.
flying, and he didn't see it because he was looking up the race. The chutes actually split runners between male and females, so
Oh.
he looked up to figure out what chute we went into, and in that split second, I towed and caught my toe on a manhole cover, went
Mm.
flying, and I hit, bounced right back up,
Yeah.
PR and
Nice.
everything. And but I still tease him to this day, like, oh,
Hmm.
you were my first guide, my best guide at the time, and
Hmm.
you also fall in the marathon.
Oh yeah, this is something that you get to hold over this person's head
Yeah,
until
yeah,
all of eternity passes away. You know, like
exactly.
this is like a legendary moment in the
Yeah,
history of Kyle
yeah,
Robidoux at this point.
yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
But it happens. I mean, I remember the first time I ran Vermont 100, I ran 11 miles with a guide who had never guided before. I never met
Hmm.
before. I ran with actually Maggie Gooderl at the time, and she had done some guiding, but mostly road guiding with
Hmm.
Achilles International chapter. But Maggie was up there supporting me, and so it was the first time we met and that we ran together was the actual race. And then I've certainly done more races lately that do have first time guides, but
Hmm.
if I have my druthers, then yeah, like ideally you train everyone or you run with them beforehand. But sometimes I'm just pressed for guides, and
Yeah.
volunteer who don't have any training experience. So we figure it out.
Now, are you getting the people who are guiding you through like your own recruiting? Is it coming through like, because I know Achilles also is a pretty prominent organization in the Boston area, specifically and globally, local and in the U.S., who
Mhm.
does support people and set them up with guides as well too. I don't know if you're involved with an organization, either them or like them, or the organization for the blind that you're working with. They set you up with guides, or you're kind of just like on your own to like figure out. I'm assuming more recently you've probably been like hand choosing some people because you've been at this for a hot minute and you probably have some favorites at some point. But tell me about that process.
Yeah, the process ebbs and flows. Like there's some times where I have a stable of like 8 to 9 guides who I rely on all
Hmm.
the time, and life happens, right? Someone moves, someone gets sick, they get injured, they have to focus on their own training. So
Hmm.
I, over the years, I do actively run with Achilles Boston International, and they've been wonderful. It's nice to have a Tuesday night and a Saturday morning if I know that I need guides that I can just sign up and show up and there'll be guides
Hmm.
there. And there are certainly
Yeah.
some guides. I try to be respectful and not poach like guides from Achilles to then come run with me. But
Uh-huh.
the understanding I have with them is, if they are running outside of the regular workouts with me, that's totally fine. Like I try really hard. I don't want them to run with me and then not go to the regular Achilles runs. So I
Yeah.
get guides through them, definitely through my own network. And then I've been using this website called United in Stride, which is just unitedinstride.com. And it was actually part of the Mass Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired for many years. And then about 3 months ago, it was just transitioned to Achilles International, and they now run the website, which is going to be great because they're active on a year-round basis. They have all these chapters and all these runners and also different sports. So a lot of us get guides through United in Stride, and then a lot of it is just like my own networking and social media.
Okay. I mean, that's definitely very exciting. I also just pulled that up on my computer, so that way, hopefully, I don't know if anyone told you this. I think I sent the email too. If you want to run the Falmouth Road Race, Kyle, I would love to guide you to the Falmouth Road Race. If anyone knows that course, it is Juliana Coughlin.
Nice.
I live down the street, so like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I literally, like 90% of the runs that I do, I touch the Falmouth Road Race course in some capacity, just because it's a pretty prominent, like, long stretch along the ocean here.
Yeah.
And I've been harassing Matt. Now it's this woman named Maggie, who I actually know as well too, who's the adaptive division, like, leader / head department, whatever they call it at the Falmouth Road Race. And we haven't had any blind or visually impaired people who want to run the road race yet. And I said, Matt, the first person you get, I will be guiding them. It'll be a nice time. So
yeah, no, I would love to. I've cheered it. My wife and my sister-in-law have run it 1 or 2 years.
Yeah,
but it was years ago. But yeah, I mean, if they really, or you really want to get runners who are blind or visually impaired that are adaptive at all, like, Achilles would be a great resource because they actually have a good number of athletes showing up in all different abilities and paces and all that. So that'd be a cool, like, I'm sure folks from Achilles would love to come down and run that.
yeah, they actually do have an entire team that comes down. They just haven't had any, like, adaptive blind, visually impaired runners who have been needing a guide. I think largely the people we've had are I know there's a few like wheelchair athletes that have come through from Achilles.
Nice.
I know you probably know John with dwarfism. Smaller gentleman. Yep, smaller gentleman. Who's an absolute treat of a human. I love John. John has run the Falmouth Road Race a bunch of times. So, like, they just haven't had anyone who's required a visual guide. So if you'd like to come down and do it, you just let me know. Okay.
All right. Let's get that on the calendar. We'll make it happen.
Yeah. 2027. Because I think they have the entrance for 2026 already, because we're only like a month and a half out from the road race at this point. But if you'd like to too, if I do a live interviews at the expo as well too. So
very cool.
Yeah. Nice. This year I have at least 2 of my lovely adaptive humans who are going to be doing interviews with me, which is very fun. So
it's awesome.
It's a lot of fun.
And do you race direct a race in the Cape now?
I do, yeah. So I am doing the Cape Cod Trail Race as my race, which, given what you have done in the past, it will be a freaking piece of cake if you want to come down and run it. I'm trying to get as many adaptive athletes as I can to participate. Unfortunately, it is like a single track. So like, I can't have anyone who likes to participate on wheels be part of it, because it's just like it's not big enough. And I'm sure the Vermont 100 is like that as well too. I know there's some single track on that course. But if you're able to navigate single track, definitely it is a fully navigatable course. It's a 10K loop. And right now we're doing a 10K, a 20K, and a 30K. Hopefully next year I'll be bringing back the 50K. That's one of my goals. So,
very cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But if you'd like to come join us, it's in May next year. Anyone who's an adaptive athlete, I'm giving free entry to. So if you'd like to participate, all you got to do is shoot me an email and you're in.
All right. Yeah, let me do it. Yeah, let's make that happen. Yeah, I'd love to.
Unfortunately, I can't guide you because I will be race directing. But and unlike the Vermont 100, where there's like a big gap between when Amy needs to be at the start line versus the finish line, a 10K is not a big enough gap for me to be a guide and be back at the finish line.
Very understandable. Very understandable.
But would love to have you. Absolutely love to have you.
Fantastic. What part of the Cape is it?
It's in Falmouth. It's up at the Crane Wildlife Reservation. So it's like in North Falmouth, kind of like close to like the like the Bourne area.
Okay.
Right beneath where like the base is for the Coast Guard. So
all right. Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's a nice course. It's got a like a little bit of rolling hills, you know. It's for being a Cape Cod course. It's got a decent amount of elevation. It's not Vermont,
Yeah.
but you know, hey.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, no, I'm gonna definitely check it out.
Great. I'll send you more information when it gets a little bit closer. Once we open registration, I'll send you more information so that way, if you want to do it, you can get in.
Yeah, yeah, sounds good.
So, but we got a little bit derailed by that. But yeah, so you have some athletes, some return guides that you have worked with in the past.
Mhm.
And do you like, do you have any stories besides the one where you tripped on accident, obviously, that were just like funny moments, or just like maybe some antidotes from working with guides that you, or tips and tricks that you want to tell people? Like, hey, you should be aware of this before you start working with a guide if you do have a visual impairment.
Yeah, I mean, I have endless funny stories, I assume, but I I mean, I'm a strong believer that most, I mean, not everyone. There's certainly been a couple people who have jumped in and guided me, and afterwards, I'm like, yeah, maybe this isn't quite cut out for you,
Yeah.
but not lately. But I think that for the most part, everyone can be a guide, right? It's really just,
Hmm.
I mean, fitness obviously is one thing, but
Yeah.
in addition to that, it's just good communication skills and trail awareness or course awareness, which is great.
Hmm.
And, I'll say I'm in always ever evolving in terms of my vision and usable vision. And there's certainly
Hmm.
times where like no longer do I rely on my own vision, but there were times, even trail running, that I could like kind of look down and be like, all right, what's
Hmm.
coming? And use that in addition to the guide. But that's no longer for the most part now. I'm just 100% relying on like the
Hmm.
verbal cues. And I also think there's a difference between, guiding trails and guiding roads. Obviously, I've had a
Yeah.
bunch of trail running guides who have done some road stuff, and they were like, wow, this road guiding is super easy. I'm like, yeah, even running in the city, right? I've done, obviously,
Yeah.
training runs with guides, and then we'll run the Boston Marathon together. And, you can go like miles without a turn. And they're like, wow, this
Hmm.
is kind of boring. It's just like you and me out here running. And I was like, yeah, it's nice that there's not a ton of guiding. We're not moving around stop signs
Hmm.
and buses and fire hydrants. It's really, for the most part, just people. And even, like the Boston Marathon now it's most of the people, because I start early, people just pass me. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, I think everyone should give it a try, and as long as folks know their left and rights, or if they are like Amy from the Vermont 100, she is thankfully at least consistently wrong with her left and rights. So I
Uh huh.
do know, like, oh, if Amy says right, most of the time
We're
it
probably
actually
taking
means
a
left.
left. Uh
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, I
huh.
mean, funny stories are everywhere. I mean, one, I fall all the time with everyone, right? Regardless, I've fallen with my best guides, and I've
Uh
fallen
huh.
with my guides. So it's part of trail running, and it's part of that experience. But yeah, I mean, I
Agreed.
remember I was running once with someone, and and again, it's part of it is consistency, and someone just
Hmm.
kept on calling out pine cones, pine cones. We were running Ghost Train Trail Race in New Hampshire, and
Oh yeah. Uh huh.
I was like, in my head, I'm like, I don't really know what these pine cones are, blah blah. And then it dawned on me, like, as we were going through a couple different sections of it, they're actually pine needles, and instead of like pine cones. I'm like, oh, perfect. So
Oh.
and they caught it at one point. They're like, oh my god, I've been doing this wrong for like an hour. I'm like, it's fine. Like, you've been consistent. So as long as now I know when you call pine cones, they're going to be pine needles. So yeah, so it's part of just learning there, and in that, and then just being mindful of who else is on the trail and things of that.
Hmm. Now, what does like trail? Because like I'm imagining my brain when I'm trail running, and like usually my brain is like, "Don't trip on the rock, Juliana. Don't trip on the rock. Pick up your feet. Don't pick
Yeah,
up on the rock." And like I can physically see the rocks, and I eat shit all the time.
yeah.
It is a key feature of Juliana trail running. I am the known faller. I am the tower downer of the group here,
Mhm.
taking the hits, taking the L. What does it sound like between you and the guy? Like, what are they calling out for you? Are they telling you like rock, 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 rock? Like, is it just like a continuous stream of conscious that's kind of happening
Yeah,
there?
trail running, yes, definitely. And yeah, so that's why it's a big difference in trail running and road running, is that if
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to, I try to top guides out at 20 miles for trail running, just because physically they can handle it, but
The
just
talking.
mentally it's talking the entire time. I mean, I was very
Mm-hmm.
lucky a number of years ago and ran Trans Rockies, the 6-day stage race. And I remember it was stage 2 or 3, but it was whatever day we went up and over Hope Pass, and we came down Hope Pass, and there's just a 6 mile stretch that it wasn't super steep downhill,
Hmm.
and it wasn't super technical, but just technical enough where my guide had to talk the entire time, almost for
Hmm.
6 miles straight. And his wife was running behind me, and she'd give him a breather for here and there. But I remember we got back to when we finished, like every night they have like chillville, so everyone hangs out and drinks
Hmm.
beers and just chit chats. And we were there for like a couple minutes. He's like, I'm just gonna go back to my tent. I'm like, everything good? He's like, I just physically can't talk right now. And two, I want to be by myself.
Hmm.
Because he was on for probably 21 miles that day, whatever it was. So it
Hmm.
is a different tempo when you are trail running and versus road running. Not to say that one is
Yeah.
easier than the other, but it's just the expectation is to be, just there's a lot more to call out.
Yeah, that can definitely be mentally exhausting. This is just more confirmation, Kyle, that I need to pace for you at some point because I'm the person like I announced the Cape Cod Marathon weekend. Like I am pretty much like on the mic for like 6 hours and then like 9 hours at a time. And I can
Yeah, yeah,
talk the entire time. And like people
mhm,
know if I run a marathon or any
yeah,
distance, my friend Ben, who's my main training partner, he'll be like, Juliana doesn't shut up. And I don't. Like I talk the
yeah,
entire time. So I'm gonna talk regardless if I'm telling you what's in front of you or not. So this could be
yeah,
a
yeah.
nice fit for you, my friend.
It could be, depending what mind frame I am. I've certainly had some folks be like, "Ooh, and that's, I mean, it's a tricky balance. And I tell
Hmm.
folks this all the time. Like there are some races, like longer distance races, where I haven't had pacers.
Hmm.
The race, including Vermont, has offered them to me, and I've used them actually at Vermont, pacers
Yeah.
and sighted guide.
Yeah.
But
So you have two people that are kind of running alongside you, more or
one
less.
is guiding me, and the other is keeping us on the trail because you're always
Hmm.
looking at them and so forth. But I tell folks all the time, like I always benefit from having someone around me to, if needed,
Hmm.
to kind of keep my spirits up. And I definitely
Oh,
tell, like,
same.
if I'm in a longer distance run and pacers are allowed later in the race, I do try to be adhere
Hmm.
to like the pacing guidelines. I tell my guides, like, don't mule for me, don't
Hmm.
coach me on pace. Like, tell me like visually, like I need to know what my pace is, right? But
Yeah.
don't in a way in which you're kind of more acting as a pacer up until the point where everyone else can have pacers.
Hmm.
But I'm always just inherently with someone, right? So I have someone there to kind of pull me out if things get really dark. But the flip
Hmm.
side of it is that one of the reasons why a lot of us love trail running is that ability to kind of just lose your mind and get within yourself and
Hmm.
get in the woods and the nature. And I never have that, except I do
Yeah.
have, there are some points in the races where I do stop and I tell my guide, like, hey, just keep on running for like 200 feet. And they get freaked out. They're like, everything fine? And sometimes I have to go to the bathroom. Like, I like a little bit of privacy. But
Yeah. Fair.
sometimes it's really just like, I just want to sit here and like be by myself and like take
Hmm.
in the noise and the sound that everyone else gets when they're running in the middle of the night by themselves.
Yeah.
So I've learned to like take a few moments to do that. But inherently, I probably benefit more from having, someone with me the entire time.
That is like a really good point too, that you really are like not outfitted that opportunity like automatically if you are running with a pacer and or a guide to just like have that internal alone time that I know most runners really benefit from.
Hmm.
And it I'm sorry that that's part of your experience, but it sounds like to me you've really been able to identify that and like utilize what you can to achieve
Yeah.
that goal
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and you make it work and you adapt and you figure things out. And and just like you could, if you're a sighted runner running by yourself, you can easily hook up with someone else and just share a
Mhm.
ton of miles with them, and they work that same value added, in that sense.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm also someone like you too, who are like I'm fine running by myself, but my running is definitely enhanced big time when I have, let's just say, a positive person to be
Yeah,
running with.
yeah,
Because you and I'm sure you've also hooked up with those people where you're like, can I drop this person? This person is very annoying.
yes, 100%. Like we all do. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thankfully, it hasn't happened a lot with my actual guides because then that would make it
yeah.
tricky.
Yeah, it sounds like to me you vetted them at least enough to know that they're not that person who's going to show up and be like, "This sucks. I hate doing." Like they at least you've at least vetted them that far. I'm assuming to like understand them that well. So that's
Yeah,
definitely
for
good.
the most part. For the most part, but having a conversation with someone, and especially there was a point in time where I was
Hmm.
traveling to a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
races, so
Hmm.
I would just like reach out to local running communities and be like, like North Carolina, I ran Yeti 100 years ago, and I knew no one down there,
Hmm.
and I think 5 out of the 6 guides had never guided before. And then I met like via just networking, like calling folks and calling shoe stores and be like, I got to find guides. Can you help me out? And then there was one guy who actually, again, was connected with Philly's Achille, but he came down and guided me for the first, I think, 11 or 12 miles, but he'd never guided on trails before. But
Mhm.
thankfully, Yeti is like kind of a rail trail. So it was a pretty easy
The thing.
guiding first experience. But yeah,
Mhm.
all the other guides were brand new. And yeah,
Wow.
so you're rolling, and each of them I try to talk to each of them on the phone once or twice to set
Mhm.
expectations. I write long documents and spreadsheets and guiding kind of tips, but
Yeah.
a
Protocol
lot different.
procedure.
You can't always get a good fit from people's personality up until like you're in the throes of it.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite person that we'd like to like shout out, like your all time? If you could like run with one of your peeps that you've run with forever and ever and ever, do you have like a favorite guy? Just because like I like to talk about the positive things here, and if you have someone that is like your all star human, we'd love to
Yeah.
shout them out.
There's so many folks like that I
Or
love
many.
to enjoy running with, and many of my guides have become my closest friends. Folks who
Hmm.
I text with a gazillion times a day, and we're just not. A lot of them
Hmm.
started off as volunteer guides with me, and now they have become my some of my closest friends. But
Hmm.
would say that there was a guide a number of years ago, and this kind of describes. It's not the ideal; it doesn't work for everyone. But I had a guide who
Hmm.
she just ran all the time
Yeah.
and never raced, didn't want to race because of some dynamics,
Uh
but
huh.
she would rip off like 20-mile runs on her own.
Yeah.
So
Just for
when
fun.
I started guiding and running with her, she was the absolute perfect guide
Hmm.
because she didn't train. So, understandably so, a lot of my guides, they train as well. And I joke, there's some guides who like I literally run with them. Like my speed workout is their recovery day, so
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
mindful. I have some really fast guides. So
Uh
in
huh.
their during training, if they're really locked in training, like, hey, I gotta bang out this 3-week training block. I'm not gonna be able to guide you, which is
Hmm.
understandable, and I get it.
Fair.
But this guide like never had any of that going on. So it was just amazing. She and I also end up like calling her like my closer. I think she the first year I did the Vermont 100, she finished with me. The Vermont 100K, she finished. I did the last 20 miles. So I always had her
Hmm.
like my closer because it was at the time, someone who I trusted the most, but also who would keep me in line with my bullshit.
Hmm.
If
Yeah.
I going downhill.
Uh
So
huh.
I mean, one, she continues to be a great friend. I haven't run with her in a number of years, but I think just the her ability just to rip really long runs with me pretty much any week was amazing. For especially once I started getting into ultra running that I was
Hmm.
doing back to back 30 to 25-mile days. Like it was
Hmm.
great. Someone that I knew I could just do one long run with and then patch together a
Hmm.
second day with someone that I did 12 miles with, and then I'd hop on the track for like 12 miles to finish that run.
12 miles on the track. Dear Jesus. God
I
bless
was
you.
doing, I mean, during COVID, I was doing 50Ks on the track just for training. It was
Well,
brutal.
yeah, that sounds brutal. That sounds brutal enough to me. I'm bad enough when it's like a 2 or 3 mile loop.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah,
just like, this is monotonous, but
yeah, yeah,
hey, you got to do what you got to do. And I mean, I've also done like 25-mile runs on a treadmill. So like, who am I
exactly.
to talk?
Yeah,
What it was
yeah,
not my favorite runs I've ever been on, but it got done. And that's really what
yeah.
counts.
Yeah. At least the treadmill, you can go uphill, right? I mean, the track, you're just going flat
Yeah.
the entire time.
I actually broke the incline on my treadmill because like when I was training for the Tokyo Marathon, I was trying to like I have foot dystonia too, and if I run too far on a flat surface, it starts going like on
Yeah.
me, which is not ideal. And I start tripping myself for a different reason. Uh,
Mm.
Juliana likes to fall,
Yeah. Yeah.
but um, yeah, I broke the incline because I was trying to like go up and down and up and down and up and down. I think I watched one of the UTMB races, and like as they were going up and down hills, I would like then oscillate my treadmill to
Oh,
follow
okay.
them.
Yeah. 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 Okay.
Well, because those races are long enough where you can just watch one thing, and
Yeah.
it's
That's
like
good.
12 hours, whatever hours of
Yeah.
like race footage, and so I would just follow the cam and just like go
Yeah.
up and down as they were going up
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
down. I fully broke the incline on my
Yeah.
treadmill, and I had to get
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
replaced.
one funny story and also a shameless guide shout out because you asked for
Uh-huh.
both questions. I was very fortunate. I've been very fortunate to run with a lot of amazing guides, but also a lot of guides who are, really well known in the trail community. And I did have
Mhm.
the opportunity. Actually, ironically, I ran the California International Marathon with Chrissy Mail, who at
Mhm.
that point, I think it was her first like road marathon in probably 20 years, right? I mean,
Mhm.
she dominated the trail scene for years and years in the US and internationally. So here we are running a trail or a road marathon. And I think it was like around mile 3. She's like, "Oh, I got to pee real quick. I'm just going to hop in." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll just like shuffle along a little bit." I can,
Mhm.
like at that point in time, like I'm like, I could follow like the white line. So I'm like, "Oh, I'll
Yeah,
just
yeah.
run the white line." And then sometime around like mile like 78, she's like, "Oh, I got to pee again." She jumped in the woods.
Uh-huh.
The back of my head, I'm like, man, thank God I don't have like strict time guide goals for that race.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I would have been really slow. So I joked with her and told her afterwards, I'm like, just FYI, like, and I think she asked, like, "Oh, give me some feedback." I'm like, "You did an
Uh-huh.
amazing job. It was so much fun." I'm like, just as an FYI, like, you may want to be mindful of like someone does have like legit time goals. Like,
Mhm.
this isn't a trail race where you go and pee, every 5 or 10 miles, and it doesn't matter because you're
Yeah.
running 100 miles and you're just going to
Yeah.
make up. And she's like, "Oh my God, you should have said something." I'm like, "No, it's fine." Like I had no goals and I was fine just waiting for you or jogging slowly. But it was really funny of like, oh, the
Mhm.
trail runner hits roads.
Yeah, that sounds about correct. I'm also the same way too, where I'm like, okay, it's a pee break time. It's been like 3 miles, and people are like, Juliana, like you need to be like not stopping so much. I'm like, yeah, but we can. We got to stay hydrated, my friends.
Yes, exactly.
We got to stay hydrated. Okay. Now, do you have any races that are either and or big goals for you right now, or what you're working towards currently?
It's a good question. So I actually just decided probably 3 weeks ago I was on the Vermont 100K waiting list and
Hmm.
I was, you know, pretty confident I was going to get off just because where I was. So I was
Yeah.
training like I was going to run, but I decided about 3 weeks ago not to run. Like everyone else, a tough decision, but I just wasn't quite feeling the training. My mind and energy wasn't in 100%. And I also, work has always been busy, but work is
Yeah.
busy. And I also have a bunch of other stuff in like my personal life that I just need to dedicate, for every hour that I'm doing a long training run, I should be doing some other stuff in like my personal life related to my vision loss. So
Hmm.
I decided to drop out, and thankfully, Amy also was very understanding, and we still may go up. Hopefully, we're going to go up and volunteer.
Awesome.
But yeah, so that is it for the summer. And I did just sign up the other day for the Charlotte, North Carolina marathon. I have a buddy who is actually really active with the Charlotte Achilles chapter, who's doing great things down there and reinvigorated that chapter and is a great leader within the blind visually impaired community. So he's trying to get some runners to go down. So I just agreed to go down and do that. And then I'm thinking of this summer I'm gonna do, even though I'm not quite there like long distance wise, but I want to do some fun like kitschy stuff a little bit. Like I talked to one of my
Okay.
guides about doing a run around the entire perimeter of Boston.
Oh,
And
okay. Yeah.
I had no
Badass.
idea how many miles it was, but then when I told him I was going to do it, he like within a minute sent a text and said, "Hey, here's this Strava link," and
Uh-huh.
it's a guy hiked it in like segments years ago
Oh,
and
yeah, yeah.
put the whole thing on a Strava or GPX file, whatever. So
Hmm.
yeah, so he's like, "Here's the whole route." He's like, "Well, let me know when you want to do it." It's like 90 miles, and so I want to kind of do something fun like that. And I've always wanted to run like in every neighborhood in Boston, which is
Mm.
not a ton of miles, but I've done it almost for a lot of training runs, but I've never like
Hmm.
intentionally been like, "Oh, let's hit like all 24 to 26 miles or neighborhoods." So
Okay.
maybe something like that to keep my body moving while focusing on, some other stuff.
Well, if you want to run the Cape Cod Marathon in October, please just let me know. We are also offering free entries for athletes with disabilities to that too. So you know,
Oh, okay. All
if
right. Maybe
you
this
if
will
you
be the fall of marathons.
if you'd like to, we have a marathon, a half marathon, and a 5K. So like you get to
Okay.
pick your point. Or if you're really feeling spicy about it, you could do the Chowder Challenge, which is the half marathon on Saturday and the full marathon on Sunday.
Ooh, all right. All
If
right. That's
And you,
yeah. Remind me where. Well, we'll talk offline. But no, I
yeah,
would be open to thinking more about that. Yeah.
yeah, just an opportunity. We actually have, I think we're going to have at least two or three other visually impaired runners this year. We started working with AdaptX, which is, I hadn't heard of them previously, but they're a athletes with disabilities organization that largely helps people find equipment. So like
Yep.
chairs, prosthetics, things like that. And we have at least three push room people from them and a couple other people who are going to be joining us this year
Nice.
for the marathon. It's very
Nice.
exciting.
That's awesome. Is that Brandon's or Brendan's shop?
Yes. Yeah.
Aylward?
Yeah. Brendan or Brendan. I'm not exactly sure the
Yeah.
pronunciation, but
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's a
And
good guy.
yeah, he seems very nice. I'm going to get him on the podcast as well too. He's just been very busy,
Yes.
and we've been trying to help promote the on Cape stuff that he's been doing. They had a
Oh,
Hyannis
thank you.
event that we promoted, so just trying to get as many people as possible to attend to those things, and hopefully, the people who come who are part of the adaptive vision have a nice time and come back the next year. That's the goal.
Yeah, that's awesome. Very cool. Yeah, no, he's a great guy. He and I co-presented on a panel at some running expo in Boston a couple years ago. But yeah, he's so dedicated to that community of push rim and wheelchair athletes and in the adaptive space in general.
Yeah, I think it's really wonderful. Well, it sounds like you have some like fun goal. I'm sorry that you're just like I understand where you're coming from, like just mentally not being into the training and not really wanting to be like, okay, I could commit all this time and effort to this, but I'm not really invested in it. And also I'd be taking that spot away from someone else who possibly is like more invested in that goal than I am at this point in time.
Yep.
So, but it sounds like you have some other cool goals, and I would absolutely love to hear more. You should have someone like document your journey around Boston. Like that would be a cool thing to just like either get like some kind of footage of, or like just even record your thoughts and feelings as you on an audio message as you're going around, and like that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, don't lots of things to think about and plan it and then actually do it.
Yeah, I think it'd be awesome. And like I said, we'd love to have you at the Cape Cod Marathon either this year or next year or the year after, however
Yeah,
you're feeling about it, you
no,
know?
I appreciate that, and thank you for your thoughtfulness around trying to engage athletes with disabilities, and it's really cool to hear all the work that you're doing and the races on the Cape as well.
I'm just trying, I'm treating people the way I would want to be treated.
Hmm.
And that's really the long and the short of it.
Hmm.
And I think it's just the more diversity that we can bring into the racing world, whether it's like gender, adaptive, how adaptive, like your disabilities, whatever you are, and also like gender orientation, sexual orientation, like any way that we can bring more variety into the racing, running, trail running, everything scene, the better the sport's going to be.
Yeah,
So that is just my general prerogative. And I also know, like, from my chronic illness and like disability side of things, like how nice it is when someone just says, "How can I help you?" And they
yeah,
like genuinely mean it and they're willing to put in the work. And that's exactly how I would like to treat other people.
yeah. That is a good model to follow, and I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, any other thoughts and feelings that you'd like to share with people, Kyle? Any like antidotes that you have, or just like encouragement for maybe other people who want to be guides, or maybe other people who are visually impaired who want to get into running?
Yeah, I think all of it. Both. I mean, I think for guides or runners who are interested in guiding, I think part of it is just, taking small steps. And it is a great way to volunteer and while doing something that you love doing, and you're either very likely to be doing it anyway, right? Like if you
Yeah.
are running 5 days a week, it's a nice opportunity to take one of those runs and support a runner like myself. And right now, as we talked about, like for the most part, like I'm lucky that I have a treadmill in my basement, so I do a lot of weekday runs in my basement. But
Mhm.
the ability to run outside on the weekends is now pretty much dependent on having access to guides. So it still continues to be the biggest barrier for athletes like myself to be either running or walking outside is the access to guides. So if
Mhm.
folks are interested in checking out United in Stride, I recommend them to do that. And I think
Mhm.
for athletes with vision loss or other, I think it's, although we talked a lot about like running longer distances and marathons and
Mhm.
ultras, I also think it's just as powerful and important to get outside and run a mile or walk a mile, right? It's more about just being outside and moving your body and
Mhm.
enjoying nature, whether that comes in the form of a 2 mile walk or a 3 mile hike or a 1 mile run or a 100 mile run, right? It's
Mhm.
all about figuring out what makes you happy and what's going to keep you healthy and moving forward. And I also wanted to just like lift up and celebrate the work that you've done, but folks like Amy and many others on the race directing side and TARC, the Trail Animals Running Club
Oh
here,
yeah, we love
here in
Park.
Boston. They've always been incredibly supportive of my work and my
Mhm.
running over the years. And I think, race directors, it is a little bit of like that build it and they will come. Yeah, I've talked to
Mhm.
race directors like, well, if we create an athletes with disability division, how many folks can you get to turn out? And I'm like, not a lot, right?
Yeah,
Especially in the trail running community. It's
yeah,
where it is, right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
I do think, and I tell folks this all the time, like, and I worked with like Jason from Yeti, and I said,
Mhm.
wanted to do an athletes with disability division. I said, just so you know, like it is so powerful if just one person gets on a website, I'm looking to register for a race. And inevitably, before I register races, I will try to email the race director and be like, hey, I want to run this race. Are you cool with me having guides? So it's just really so powerful, even to have something on the registration page saying, we're open to having guides, contact the race director for more information. Like that is such a calming effect on me as I'm trying to figure out like what races I want to pick and how hard it will be to like talk to the race director about getting guides. And for
Mhm.
longer races like Vermont 100, I mean, also Amy's been so supportive, but there's a lot of
Yeah.
logistics that goes into it. Like sometimes I've had to have
Mhm.
additional cars on the, like Vermont 100, your crew can only have one car. So
Mhm.
Amy did provide an accommodation to have two cars. And same
Mhm.
thing like when I ran Western States, like they allowed me to have two cars on the road for my crew. So
Mhm.
it's part of like just being open minded to race directors as well, and trying to figure out small steps to being as inclusive as we can.
Yeah, I totally agree too. As someone who like has experienced like the non-inclusive side of like signing up for things and the inclusive thing, like putting the option in the drop-down box is very powerful. Whether it's like having a non-binary category, whether it's having athletes with disabilities category, however you identify, like being able to just be like, oh, I am welcomed and wanted here, and I don't have to put in the extra effort. Because, like, here's the thing: I know how hard it is to explain your life story to every single person, especially like you and I. You've probably been to as many doctor's appointments as I have.
Yeah, yeah,
And like every time you have to explain your health history to another doctor, another nurse, another person, it's just
yeah,
exhausting sometimes.
yeah. Agree.
And not having to do that and just being able to be like, yep, I'm on this list. Here I am. Look at me. And just like saving yourself that mental strain,
Mhm.
10 out of 10 experience.
Yeah, sure. I agree. I agree.
So yeah, and I'm just trying my best. I'm slightly new at this. I will be going to the U.S. Trail Convention and hopefully getting some. I got a scholarship to that to go as a new race director.
Oh,
So
awesome.
yeah, so hopefully I'll bring back some more information and we'll have a nice fun time.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Is Terry still coordinating that?
I think oh gosh, we got an email today. Let me just double check the woman's name. I think it was Karen potentially.
Okay. Huh, nice.
Um,
Where is it this year?
it is in Nash. Oh, Nancy. Oh yeah, it is Nancy. It is Nancy. Okay, Nancy
Oh,
Hobbs.
Nancy Hobbs.
Yeah, Nancy Hobbs.
Oh, awesome.
And it's in Nashville, Tennessee this year.
Oh, fun. Nice. Yeah, I went probably 2 or 3 or 4 years, in a couple different locations. Yeah, it's super fun to be around. It's a good
Yeah,
community.
I think it should be fun. There's a whole group of
Yeah.
other, like I think the 7 or 8 other people who also got the scholarship who are new trail race directors as well too. So it should be a good group
Yeah.
to connect with.
Yeah. And it's on the East Coast. The years I went, it was like Colorado,
Yeah.
low, like way out, like San Luis Obispo, which is gorgeous. But I went there one year. That's
Hmm.
awesome. You'll get a ton of good energy and you'll learn a lot. And there's, really cool community down there.
Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. And I've been to Chattanooga in Tennessee, but I've never been to Nashville. So that will also be a new experience for me too. So
Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Awesome.
I think it'd be good. But let's
Yeah.
round out the episode,
Yeah.
Kyle, with
Yes.
what shoe do you choose to use? So you can tell me either your favorite running shoe of all time, the one that lives rent free in your head, your current running shoe, or you can tell me multiple shoes. It's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, two quick things. One, I have traditionally run with Topo shoes for the past 8 to 10 years. They're
Oh, I
one
love
of
Topo.
my first sponsors. They are no longer a sponsor, but I love the shoe. And Ultrafly is my go-to road shoe, and Terra Venture is my go-to trail shoe. But then I just volunteered at 26 Point True, which is a marathon that happens in Boston every year.
Yeah, I ran that 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah. So, it's such a great race. But I just volunteered there this year in April, and I didn't know until after I signed up that all the volunteers, like, they mailed us, or we got to pick up a free pair of
Puma shoes.
Well, Noble. Running.
Noble is okay. I know Puma. So when I ran it 2 years ago, Puma was also a sponsor. They might still also be a sponsor, but Noble,
Noble gave all the runners free shoes, which I knew of them through like the gym workout shoes, but been using their running shoes, and I like them.
Okay. I've never actually had anyone shout out Noble on here as a running shoe. I think I would say Amy probably had like the most other niche thing. I think she was in the VJ shoes potentially. But no one else had, or is she Innovate? Is it Innovate?
Innovate. She's Innovate.
Okay. I knew it was either Innovate or VJ because they both have that anatomical toe box, and they're both like hard to get your hands on. And I like yourself, I'm assuming, Kyle, have a very wide toe box area of my foot. So I am a topo gal. I'm an ultra gal. So we love to hear that. But okay, I might have to check out these Noble shoes then. If they're fitting your wide foot, then maybe they could work. Do you know the model that you got potentially? Or is it just like a running shoe that they handed you and you can't remember the name of?
I think I just picked, like, they gave you the option of like gym shoe, walking shoe, or running shoe. So I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I wanted to shout them out more. So it's great that they're supporting 26 Point True and Pioneers in a race of that nature.
Yeah. That's a cool race.
Yeah.
I had a really fun time running it. It definitely was like slightly chaotic, but in a good way, because you are running through the streets of Boston and it's an unsanctioned fat ass race essentially. So nothing is closed and you have to cross all the streets and everything. But it's a lot of fun. And I would highly recommend that anyone who wants to run it does run it. And it was a good time. Vibes were very high the entire time.
Yeah, it's a great race.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Kyle, if people would like to find you, reach out to you, or maybe I will also put the resources that you mentioned in the episode description. So friends, if you would like to get involved with Achilles or the other organization, what was it called that you shouted out, Kyle?
United in Stride is great for guides or runners who are visually impaired.
Yes. United in Stride.
Yeah. And then I'm on Instagram. Blind Beer Runner is my Instagram handle.
Love it. Okay. And I will link your socials down below too, just in case anyone has any questions, queries, comments. Maybe they're looking to become a guide with you and see if you're looking for anyone. They could reach out to you. And that will all be listed down below. And thank you again for joining me, Kyle. This was really lovely.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you for having me on, and thanks for all the work that you do in the community.
Try my best, like if I can improve one person's day, then I've done my job, that's really all it comes down to. But okay. Well, friends, if you would like to find me over here, you can hit me up at runnapod@gmail.com or hit us up at runnapod on Instagram. And that'll bring us to the end of the episode. And we'll see you next time. And I hope you have a lovely day. Okay? Bye. And that is the end, Kyle. And you did a great job. Fantastic, my friend. Thank you for listening to this episode of Runnah. This podcast is edited, hosted, and produced by me, Juliana Coughlin. Brought to you in part by the Falmouth Running Club and the Falmouth Community TV station. If you'd like to connect with us, you can find us on Instagram and on TikTok at Runnapod. And you can send us an email at runnapod@gmail.com. And our original theme music was brought to you by the one and the only wonderful Jeffrey Hutton. And keep up the great work. I'm proud of you.